What's going on, guys? I'm Steele Rutherford, hanging out with Oscar, and we're just doing what we can to better ourselves. One way we do that is by going out every day and shooting something, anything. I don't care if it's a plant blowing in the wind, sunset, just trying to get myself in as many different lighting scenarios as possible, because I'm more of a run and gun shooter. I like to get the job done as fast as possible. I don't like spending time setting up cameras, setting up lights, setting up audio. I like to be a run and gun shooter. Let's get it done, let's get out. Let's go edit. A lot of stuff you can fix in post. I know it sucks, everyone hates that term. Oh, let's fix it in post, or we'll fix it in post. It's bullshit. It's for lazy people, but at the same time, with the new technology of all the editing programs, you have a lot of flexibility nowadays. All right. I'm just rambling right now. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to do what I can do. In fact, why don't we talk a little bit about camera settings? There are 3 different ways that you can adjust for light. Okay, so you have your shutter speed that will change light, you have your aperture that will change light, and you have your ISO that will change light. Creatively, there's many different areas, many different ways you can use that 3 lighting situation. So let's say you're at a baseball game and you have a lot of high-speed movement going on, or you're at a race track, or just pretty much any kind of sporting event, you're going to want to shoot at a higher shutter speed, because the higher shutter speeds allow for less blurry shots, more preciseness. And you want that. You want that when things are moving fast. When things are going slow, you can get away with shooting at a 150th shutter. But I generally try to shoot at a 90-degree shutter or 1/100th if you're in a 24 frames per second frame rate. The lower the shutter number, the more light you're going to get in. So 1/50th is going to let more light in than a 1/100th. So that's one thing, shutter speed. Let's talk about ISO. So everyone's like, why do you want to use ISO? When's the best time to use ISO? What do you try to do? For me, generally, you want to find the ISO that is native to your camera. Some cameras have an 800 native, some have 400, some have 1600. Pretty much, I shoot with the Blackmagic Pocket. I shoot at 800 outside with an ND filter on. That just gives me that filmic grain, lights up the shadows more, and I can keep the highlights from being blown out. So I shoot at an ISO 800. If I have a lot of light, I'll go all the way down to 200. If I have everything in the areas lit up and I have a lot of shadows or anything, then I will keep it at about 200. But if I have like how this would be set up, because we got highlights in the background, I'm sitting in a shadow right now, I have my ISO at 800 to light me up without blowing out the background. Because if you're shooting at a 200 ISO with all the ND filters and everything I've got turned on, it will actually blow out the highlights before you light me up. So you want to shoot at a high ISO and turn the ND filter up a little bit. So that's another way of adjusting light. That's your ISO. The next way, and probably the most important way, is your aperture. Your aperture, the lower that number, the more blur you're going to get. So if you shoot at a 1.4, that's more for, like, you just want your subject in focus and that's it. Everything else is blur and you're only talking about this subject. You want them to look crisp and clean, and so you shoot as low as you can. Generally, I keep it at 1.8 f2 because that's pretty much what my lenses are. If you shoot outside, you might want to go to an f11, between an f11 and f16. I'll go as high as f16 if I don't have any ND filters. Again, 3 ways to go through lights: ISO, aperture, shutter. I keep my shutter following the degree rules. So if you're in 24 frames per second and you're shooting at a 90-degree rule, you will be at a 1/100th shutter. If you're shooting at a 180-degree rule, you will be at 1/50th for 24 frames per second. If you're shooting 60 frames per second, you want to be at a 1/120th shutter, or maybe keep it at a 90-degree shutter. the cameras with the 90-degree shutters, they'll automatically adjust the shutter to match the frame rate. So if you're shooting at 60 frames, it's automatically going to change the shutter to be 120. If you're shooting at 24 frames, it's automatically going to do the shutter to 1/50th. But that's only on you. ISO, I keep it 200 to 800. The more ISO you let in, the more grain you're going to get. The bird, too much for you. Shut up, bitch! All right. I went for 7 minutes.